will mouth this leave some little space. Yeah.
So leave some space like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they say it's too loud.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Actually, here it's already in on the live stream. I can text to you the link. Hello, pages. Sorry, 11. I sent it the link.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna send it and I'm gonna get out there.
Hello, pages. Trina. Hi, Jericho. I think Adam invited some patriots. We'll discuss something, right?
All right, we ready?
Yeah. Okay. You can.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adam Villarreal, the J6 fugitive, live for 1600 Unscripted in front of the White House. We have a very special show today. We have the founder of the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, calling into us live. So let me get him on the phone. Just one moment. Hey, Stuart, you are live in front of the White House on 1600 Unscripted. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing?
We're doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in D.C. So jumping right in, you've been very active lately. I just had the privilege of seeing you down there with Enrique Tarrio when you guys were announcing a very large lawsuit against the federal government. Could you expand on that for our audience?
Well, so there are several different lawsuits going on. Enrique and the Proud Boys, 5 of his co-defendants who were wronged by the U.S. government, have chosen a law firm of their own to go and do their own lawsuit, which is fine. And there are several other ones. There's one being run by Mark McCloskey and Peter Tickton. That's the one that I chose to jump on to. But they're all alleging basically the same thing. And we hope that out of all these lawsuits will come a settlement with the U.S. government, with the DOJ, that does something to restore us to our rights and compensate us for the violation of our rights.
So how do you feel, Stuart, right now, watching what's going on in Los Angeles? As a J6er, you saw the level of persecution that was leveled at us, at yourself. How does it make you feel watching what's unfolding right now?
Well, it's the same thing we saw in the summer of love of 2020, right? Where you've got leftists who are rioting and committing arson and open insurrection. That happened in 2020, and now it's happening again in Los Angeles. And so that's why I just sent you a link to the Insurrection Act. The Governor Newsom, I think he's willfully ignoring the Insurrection Act instead of trying to focus on the Posse Comitatus Act. Insurrection Act, it's what the Insurrection Act is for. And the first clause of the Insurrection Act talks about federal aid to state governments when they request it. But the next section, Section 332, says whenever the president considers the unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages, or rebellion against the authority of the United States, make it impractical to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call into federal service such of the militia of any state and use such of the armed forces as he considers necessary to enforce those laws or to suppress the rebellion. That's it right there. It's exactly what's happening right now in Los Angeles. They've got people attacking ICE agents and resisting the authority of the United States to enforce our immigration laws.
So in your mind, is this, as the Democrats say, simply a result of bad policy, or is this something deeper and more coordinated? Is this a cultural outcry or a controlled demolition of national identity?
Are you talking about the wide open borders we've had for the last 4 years? What do you mean?
What's going on in LA right now? The level of violence that people are seeing.
They wanted the borders wide open. This was bizarre, is that the left is now basically the cheerleaders for and co-conspirators with the sex traffickers and drug traffickers of the cartels, with the communist Chinese government that is poisoning Americans. They call it unrestricted warfare. They're sending fentanyl. They send all the precursors to Mexico to be put together by the cartels as their proxies. They're waging war on American citizens and killing, 100,000 Americans a year die of fentanyl overdoses. And so the left apparently is fine with that. They're fine with thousands of children being sex trafficked, raped, and possibly being murdered once they're done with them here in the United States. They're fine with women and kids being raped by the coyotes on the way up, and then they're being sold into sex slavery here in the United States. So they're defending that. So it's really bizarre. I mean, apparently, I think the bottom line is a lot of these people are Marxists, and they seek the destruction of the United States. And I've seen them chant this in the streets: no borders, no wall, no USA at all. They want to destroy this country.
So as someone who's been warning about open borders and domestic destabilization for decades, do you feel vindicated in this moment? Is it much worse than you had imagined? What can you tell to the American people?
Oh, no, I think it's going to get far worse. I think it's going to get way worse than this. And I think President Trump has got to put this fire out now, stomp on the camel's nose that's coming under the tent, where he'll have open rebellion across the country. And of course, they want him to be heavy-handed, but I think that he has no choice at this time to reassert federal authority, to enforce federal laws as the Insurrection Act allows him to do it. And calling up the National Guard. The National Guard is part of the militia. Yes, the National Guard, like any other part of the militia, all the rest of us, we are under the command of our state governors unless we're called into federal service. But Article 1 of the Constitution makes it very clear that Congress has the power to provide for calling forth the militia to repel invasions, to suppress insurrections, and to execute the laws of the Union. And they did that in part with the Insurrection Act. So the President of the United States has full authority, pursuant to federal statutes, to do exactly those three things. We're dealing with an invasion, we're dealing with an insurrection against the authority of the United States, and we're dealing with the necessity of enforcing federal law. So he has full authority to do this. It's not unconstitutional. It's not illegal, any of the nonsense you're throwing out there. It's what he has to do. It's what his job is as the commander-in-chief of the United States.
So, touching on that, let's turn the camera inward a little bit. The oath that we swear as service members is to protect the Constitution against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. How does that oath evolve when the very systems that once upheld the law now appear to subvert it through activist judiciary?
Well, that's the thing, is the founders in their wisdom, that's what they said, enemies foreign and domestic. They know there can be domestic enemies of the Constitution, and you've got governors who are openly engaged in rebellion too, and assisting the invasion and assisting the rebellion. And you've got judges doing the same thing. So he's in full, like I said, he's within his full rights and authority under the Insurrection Act to use such force as he deems necessary to protect the rights of the American people. And Section 333 is also interesting. It says here, the president, by using the militia, the armed forces, or both, or by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress in a state any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy, if it so hinders the execution of laws of the state and the United States within that state, that any part or class of its people is deprived of a right, privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution and secured by law, and the constituted authorities of that state are unable, fail, or refuse to protect that right, privilege, or immunity, or give that protection. That's what's happening. The state, like California, you got state governors and legislators who are willfully refusing to protect the rights of the American people, like the right not to be killed by illegal fentanyl. They're protecting the ability of the cartels to come in and kill more Americans, poison more Americans, and sex traffic children. And so to protect our rights, and of course, illegal aliens are raping and killing women, for example. So So to protect the rights that are not being protected by the state, President Trump has full authority under the Insurrection Act to step in. And he says here also, or if a state government opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States or impedes the course of justice under those laws. So there you go. That's what's happening.
Some people say that the answer to all this is more federal force, more National Guard, drones, biometric ID. But is restoring order with authoritarian tools, is that going to be worth it? Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, no, I don't want to have, biometric ID for all of us. I don't like that at all, or surveillance. But we should enforce our border, and we should have the Border Patrol and ICE doing their job. And yes, illegal aliens who are in this country, illegally, that's why they call it illegal aliens, they need to be deported. They don't need to be here. They don't have any right to be here. So I think it's within the authority of the president to enforce that. I don't want to have a blanket, therefore we need biometric IDs and drones in our skies. I don't like that at all. So we don't need to do it that way. We can do it the old-fashioned way. You put troops on the ground. This ICE, they protect ICE. If you want to kill an ICE agent, then yes, a Marine on the ground should be able to open fire on you to stop you killing an ICE agent. He's the one enforcing the law, but the Marines are there just to watch his back. And we've done that many times over the years. Look at the LA riots in 1992. They put Marines on the ground in LA because the situation had gotten so out of hand, local law enforcement could not handle it. But when local law enforcement, state law enforcement is overwhelmed and can't handle it, or like what's going on right now, willfully won't handle it and are standing down, that's when you have the justification for federal authority.
One of the things that we've been talking with lately in our spaces and with the audience is about digital creep and surveillance in the United States right now. Palantir's latest integrations are chilling. AI layered over immigration databases, protesting surveillance, battlefield simulations. What's your take on how tech is being weaponized, not just against threats, but possibly against citizens?
Well, that's the problem, is that they always tell you, well, to fight terrorism, or now the excuse would be, well, to fight, what's happening in LA, we need more total information awareness, more dystopian surveillance of the American people, like Minority Report style, surveillance. So it's always a false choice. They always create a problem. It's that dialectic. They create the problem, they create the chaos, and then they say, oh, the only answer is Big Brother, and Terminator Land. So we need to say, no, the answer is enforce our laws, enforce our sovereignties, take out people that don't belong here, that are not here legally, and then we can deal with our internal problems after that. But I don't want to see this false choice anymore. Like, look at the war on terror. This ended quiet skies, right? For the first time, I flew on Thursday, and I didn't have to go through a situation where I'm treated like a terrorist, and I can't even get a ticket without getting permission from DHS because, Kristi Noem ended the Quiet Skies program because it was being used only to oppress people on the political right, political dissidents. It was not being used to actually fight terrorism. That's the problem with all of these, like from the Patriot Act on, all this nonsense that they use on us with the excuse of national security is usually an absolute inversion of national security. They don't protect us from actual threats, and they go after those of us who oppose what they're doing to our country.
So for the American people out there that have been upsettled by the amount of change that's been going on over the past number of years, people who want to help, what can you tell to the average American patriot who wants to make a difference? If you could talk to a neighbor or talk to a pastor, how would you form that conversation? What would you tell those people?
Well, I think right now is a good opportunity to start talking about what we really need to have. The founders' idea of a safe security, national security for the United States, was we the people as the militia. That's what they considered a safe place to put power. They didn't trust standing armies for a reason, because a professional officer is, invested in his identity as an officer. And it goes for police too. Professional police, whether it's federal or local, they're invested in their identity of being a cop. They don't want to lose their pension. They don't want to lose their job. And so they're more likely to go along with unconstitutional or illegal orders. The founders' vision was that we the people would be the militia. And that's what the National Guard is part of, but they're the organized part, right? They've taken the militia, which is supposed to be all of us, and they've bifurcated it and said, oh, there's the organized militia, the National Guard, and the unorganized militia is the rest of us. But they don't We're not formed into units. We're not trained. What President Trump should do right now, I believe, is he should call us all up as the militia. Every man, by federal statute right now, 17 to 45, is under federal statute in the militia. All of us veterans until age 65 can be called up in the national service because of our prior experience and training, right? So he could right now say, in light of the emergency we're dealing with, a foreign invasion by proxies of China, international terrorist organizations sitting in their proxies, with the sex trafficking, all that's going on, all the deaths by fentanyl. In this situation, I'm calling for the militia, not just the National Guard, but all of you. I want you all to form up in your own counties, in county units, under my command. I want the veterans of those counties to come together. Every one of us has been trained in one thing or another. I was a paratrooper in the Army. What was your training in the Navy? You were intelligence, right?
I was a Navy nuke.
Okay, nuke. So whatever your MOS was, you bring that skill set together, the veterans get together, and then they're instructed to organize the rest of the men in the county and train the rest of the men. And then you can deploy us to the border or to hotspots like LA. I know the left would lose their minds, but that is the best way for us to actually revitalize the militia in the current political environment. Our governors have failed to do it. I say legislatures have failed to do it. Across the country, no state government has ever organized we the people as militia right now, right? Only the National Guard units. The shadow of that would be the state defense forces. We have a few of those. But point is, we're all supposed to be the militia. The politicians have just not organized us in so many decades now that we've forgotten about that. So President Trump could revitalize that right now, and that's the safest place to put the power of security in your own hands, with your own neighbors, in your communities, and then use you as needed, if he federalizes you, to call you forth to repel the invasion on the border, to execute the laws of the Union, like in LA, and suppress insurrections, like in LA. Let's us, we the people, do it ourselves. He can do that right now. He should.
You bring up such an excellent point, Stuart. Talking with my guests and members of my audience, one theme that continually comes up is what people are led to believe that what a militia actually is in its daily operations is divergent from what it would take to actually relegate internal security on a county and state level. You'd need operations, you'd need logistics, you'd need people making sure about food. And it doesn't necessarily mean getting in camo and charging up a hill with a weapon. It might mean the way money is spent. It might mean having elections boards review. It might mean a lot of things. And we try to encourage people to get involved where they fit in.
Well, sure. That's what I'm saying. Just like you were a nuke guy, right? So you're not an infantryman. So we're not asking you to go be an infantryman. What we want you to do, though, is use your skill sets. If the president were to call you up in your county where you live, for example, you get together with all the other veterans and you'd say, okay, here's my MOS, here's my skill set, and you would organize yourselves and then train your neighbors. Of course, you're not dealing with nukes, but you're gonna figure out what your skill set would be applicable for in your county. And the main thing is like I said, repelling invasions, executing the laws of the Union, and suppressing insurrections. In fact, the founder's original design, the FBI shouldn't exist. It should be we the people as the militia called into federal service for the few things enumerated that the federal government can actually make laws about to go and execute the laws of the Union. Well, immigration is one of them, right? So that'd be a very clear example. So President Trump can and should, like I said, form us in county units. Now, why is that good for us? Because it's better for us to do that, to organize ourselves to take care of our community, like natural disasters, local insurrections or riots or whatever, local security, terrorist attacks. There are sleeper cells already in this country. That's well documented by now. There's already jihadi sleeper cells all over this country ready to go hot. And here's the false choice they're giving us. They're saying, you the people should not organize for your own security and safety. That's somehow dangerous. But we're going to let terrorists run rampant, let child sex trafficking run rampant, and fentanyl kill all of you. But then when you want security, what we want to do now? Put drones in the sky with more total surveillance of you. So if you're looking at weaponized drones eventually flying over your heads. That's what they want. That's the false choice they're giving you. What I'm saying is, if you want to be safe and free, you have got to reassert the founders militia, which is every able-bodied citizen in your county formed into units, yes, under the command of your governor, whenever you're not called into federal service, but your governor that neglected you, the president should call you up right now because you are by statute the militia. He'd call you up and organize you. The benefit of that is that if he does that for the rest of his term, the next 3 years, even if a Democrat comes in or some rhino comes into office and then disbands all of you after that, it's too late. You've already formed up. You all know each other. You can just drive on and continue to train together as a private association after that. That's the best way to screw the deep state right now is mass disclosure, like they've been calling for years. You know, mass declassification and exposure of all the dirt on all these judges and all these politicians. But the other side of the coin is revitalizing the militia.
That's a fascinating thought, Stuart. I want to turn a little bit towards yourself. You've spoken prolifically and written prolifically and traveled all over the country. What are some of the key insights that you've picked up through your time in incarceration and now being free? What can you tell the American people about how it feels to be free?
Well, I mean, I'm still waiting for my pardon. Peter Ticken's my lawyer for that. And Martin is the new U.S. pardon attorney, which I think is great. So, you know, God will use for good, but man means for evil. That's true for our incarceration. That's what kept me going when I was in solitary confinement for over a year. You know, I had that. I just kept in mind the story of Joseph being sold into slavery by his brothers and then being persecuted and falsely accused by his master's wife in Egypt. You know, she falsely accused him of rape. So, but all of that was turned to good. And like he told his brothers when they were reunited, what you meant for evil, God used for good. So, when he saved many lives. So I think the same thing has happened to President Trump. The more they throw at him, that's why I'm saying that we need to be, you know, wise as serpents and paying attention and looking back to our fundamental principles. What is in our Constitution that provides for security of the free state is the militia. So we need to be really careful about not falling for these false choices they're giving us. And the same thing goes for the divide and conquer in our politics. In prison, 95% of the guys in there, black, white, Hispanic, were pro-Trump because he signed the First Step Act, because they could see that, you know, that everyone's suffering under inflation, under the hyperinflation and the food prices going up. So they all were like, okay, we're on Team Trump. He's promising to drain the swamp, get rid of the corruption. We need to push hard and make sure that's done. And there's not enough being done in the FBI or the DOJ at this time. And I know people are like, oh, you got to give them time. There should be task forces. There was a task force of 5,000 FBI agents sent out to go and persecute us, all the J6ers, and as well as abortion protesters, people who didn't like transgender, you know, school hours and things like that. So they were going after the political right with a task force. There was a task force of DOJ lawyers assigned to go after us. Hundreds of lawyers were assigned to persecute us. So where's the counterpart right now? Where's the task force in the FBI to go investigate the stolen election, the illegal and unconstitutional election of 2020? It violated Article 2 very clearly. Where's that task force? Where's the task force on January the 6th and how it was manipulated and how we were all set up? Where's the task force on the persecution after January the 6th and the general lawfare? Where's the task force in the DOJ? Where are the prosecutors? Where are the special prosecutors and the teams of attorneys there set to go and investigate along with the FBI and then impound grand juries and indict people? Where's the indictment for the two cops that blood on the stand in my case that we caught red-handed? You know, so where's accountability for the murder of Ashley Babbitt? How come that murderer has not been charged?
So for young people these days, and we're wrapping up pretty soon, but I feel like this is an important question. For the people who are just getting a voting age and starting to participate in society, for someone with your experience and seeing the way the sausage is made figuratively, what can you tell people for how to get engaged? What's their next steps if they're interested in a local militia or organizing or networking?
Well, what I tell them is first, just be aware this is a uniparty. Like Pat Buchanan said many decades ago, it's two different wings of the same bird of prey. You know, the left and the right, Republican and Democrat. It's the real fight is the people versus the elites. That's worldwide. But here in the United States, same thing. Every country in this world has globalist elites who see the people as cattle, and they'll get you to divide and conquer. They want you to follow the buzzwords and believe that you're being oppressed, and they want you to see each other along racial lines. Just look past that and see the game. The big picture game is, like I said, they treat you like cattle. They want to divide and conquer you. They want you fighting each other. They don't want you paying attention to them, what they're doing. So we need to focus on the few corrupt elites at the top. Of course, there's a bunch of corrupt people in between who've sold out and will follow orders. I would say local is the most important thing. In your county, making sure you've got clean elections, making sure you've got people in public office who take their oath seriously, and you got to root out the corruption in both political parties. It's in the Republican Party, too. Both parties are corrupt. The Democratic side, they stole it from Bernie Sanders. Republican side, they stole it from Ron Paul. I saw it happen twice. So both parties are corrupt. Just understand that. That's why I call it the uniparty.
Well, thank you so much, Stuart. I want to take a moment and plug Stuart for a second. If you want to support him or any of his great work, please go over to givesendgo.com/GAF5B. That's givesendgo.com/GAF5B. Stuart, I want to let you take it home. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the American people right now?
Yeah, so that, like I said, we need to be, like Tina Peters. This is a woman, a Gold Star mother, or some of the Navy SEAL. She's been put in prison in Colorado for doing her best to follow federal election law and do what she had to do as an election official to preserve evidence of election fraud. And she's being put in prison and being persecuted for that. And Condemned USA, I work for Condemned USA as a national spokesman. We put an amicus brief in support of it being removed from federal court. Just really pay attention to what's going on in that case. If you don't have clean elections, you don't have a republic, let alone a democracy.
Absolutely.
We're a constitutional republic, but if you don't have clean elections, you don't have freedom.
Amen, brother. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. That's the Stuart Rhodes, founder of the Oath Keeper. Stuart, thank you so much for coming on the show.
God bless you, brother. Take care.
Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us today for 1600 Unscripted. We'll be back again next week at 2 p.m. on Mondays. If you'd like to support myself or the Homeland House Foundation, head over to Amazon. You can read about my J6 Fugitive story. Just go to Amazon and look up Capital Punishment, a J6 Fugitive story, and you can see my book and all about my time on the run. Thank you so much. A big shout out to the Chinese MAGA Patriot community for always supporting us and being a great audience. Thank you.
Patriots, thank you so much. We may see you, I think it's this coming Saturday, 14th. Okay, thank you, Patriots. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Jerry, you welcome. Jericho, thank you so much. Big help. Lala, our Patriots. We'll see you soon.